Marcus wiped the sweat from his brow as he guided the hoverlift through the narrow corridors of Cargo Bay 7. Another 14-hour shift on the Frontier Trading Station was wearing him down. But the pay was decent enough to keep him fed and housed. The metallic walls hummed with the constant vibration of the station's massive engines, a sound that had become as familiar as his own heartbeat over the past 2 years. The delivery manifest showed 3 priority containers from the Outer Rim, marked with symbols he couldn't read. Marcus had seen stranger things come through the station, so he didn't think much of it as he positioned the containers in the designated storage area. The biometric scanner beeped as he pressed his thumb against it, officially accepting the delivery. What he didn't notice was the fine print that briefly flashed on the screen in an alien script before switching to standard Galactic Basic. Hours later, as Marcus was finishing his shift and looking forward to a hot meal and cold beer, alarms began blaring throughout the cargo bay. Emergency lights bathed everything in a pulsing red glow as he rushed back to investigate. The 3 containers he had signed for were now glowing with an ethereal blue light, and strange symbols were dancing. Across their surfaces, before he could call for security, the first container hissed open with a burst of crystalline vapor. A figure emerged from within, graceful, despite having been in some form of stasis. She was humanoid, but clearly not human, with skin that seemed to shimmer between pale blue and silver, depending on the light. Her hair cascaded down her shoulders, like liquid starlight, and her eyes held the depth of ancient wisdom. Princess Nira, of the Celestial Dominion, took her first breath of recycled station air, and immediately wrinkled her nose in distaste. This was not the royal reception chamber she had expected. Instead, she found herself in what appeared to be a common storage facility, face to face with a bewildered human male in work coveralls. The second container opened to reveal another female figure, this one with darker skin that held traces of gold, and shorter hair that framed a face marked by determination and strength. Princess Cora's hand instinctively moved to where her weapon should have been, her warrior instincts immediately assessing the situation for threats. The third princess, Zaina, emerged with wide eyes full of curiosity rather than concern. Her appearance was softer than her sister's, with hair that seemed to change color subtly as she moved, shifting from deep purple to soft pink. She looked around the cargo bay with obvious excitement, as if this was exactly the adventure she had been hoping. For Marcus stood frozen, his mouth opening and closing without sound as he tried to process what was happening. 3 obviously important alien women had just emerged from cargo containers in his storage bay, and they were all looking at him with varying degrees of expectation. That's when the holographic bureaucrat materialized between them, a small, rotund alien with multiple eyes and an official-looking tablet. Commissioner Vex cleared his throat importantly before speaking in perfect Galactic Basic. "Greetings, Marcus Cheneverth. Congratulations on accepting the protection pact of the Celestial Dominion. As of this moment, you are officially bound as guardian to the 3 princesses of the royal house. The ceremonies will commence once you have proven yourself worthy through the traditional trials." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. "Think there's been a mistake. I just signed for a cargo delivery." Vex consulted his tablet with obvious satisfaction. According to Galactic Law Section 4792, acceptance of a protection pact can be validated through any form of biometric confirmation, including but not limited to delivery receipts. Your thumbprint confirms your willing participation. In this sacred bond, Nira stepped forward, her voice carrying the authority of royalty despite their unusual circumstances. "Guardian Marcus, we thank you for accepting the responsibility of our protection. Our world faces great danger, and the ancient prophecies spoke of a human who would stand as our shield against the coming darkness." Cora crossed her arms and studied Marcus with obvious skepticism. "This is our mighty guardian. He looks like he's about to faint. Are you certain the prophecies weren't mistranslated?" Xena clapped her hands together with delight. "I think he's perfect. Look at those kind eyes. And the prophecy never said he had to look like a warrior. Sometimes the greatest strength comes from the most unexpected places." Marcus ran his hands through his hair, still trying to process the situation Look, I don't know anything about prophecies or protection packs. I'm just a cargo handler trying to make enough credits to buy passage off this station. There has to be someone more qualified for whatever this is. Commissioner Vex's multiple eyes blinked in sequence as he reviewed his documentation. I'm afraid the pact is magically binding once accepted. Attempting to break it would result in unpleasant consequences for all parties involved. However, if you prove yourself worthy through the trials, the benefits are quite substantial. As if summoned by his words, the air in the cargo bay began to shimmer, and Marcus felt a strange warmth spreading through his chest. When he looked down, he could see faint golden lines spreading across his skin like living tattoos, connecting him to each of the three princesses with threads of light that only he could see. Nira noticed his expression and stepped closer, her presence bringing an unexpected sense of calm. The bond has already begun to form. Do not fear it, Guardian. It will give you strength when you need it most. Marcus looked into her eyes and felt something stir within him that had nothing to do with magic. Despite the impossible situation, despite his complete lack of preparation for anything like this, he found himself wanting to protect her. To protect all of them. The next morning found Marcus in the station's administrative office, still trying to understand the full scope of what he had gotten himself into. Commissioner Vex had provided him with a datapad containing the complete text of the protection pact, written in 17 different languages. Unfortunately, the legal language was almost as incomprehensible as the alien script had been. Foreman Drex, Marcus's supervisor, had been surprisingly understanding about the situation. Apparently, protection pacts with royal houses were considered legitimate leave under Galactic employment law. Marcus suspected that having 3 alien princesses vouching for him hadn't hurt his case either. The princesses had been given temporary quarters in the station's diplomatic section, a vast improvement over the cargo bay. Marcus found them there. Adapting to their new surroundings in their own unique ways, Cora was practicing combat forms in the center of the main room, her movements flowing like a deadly dance as she worked through techniques with weapons that existed only in her memory. Her warrior's training had prepared her for many situations, but being stranded on a frontier station with an untested, human guardian was not one of them. Xena had discovered the station's cultural database and was gleefully absorbing everything she could find about human customs, food, and entertainment. She had already convinced the food replicators to produce something called chocolate she was consuming with obvious bliss. Nira stood at the large viewport, gazing out at the stars with an expression of deep concern. Marcus could sense her worry through the strange connection they now shared, a constant background awareness of her emotional state that was both comforting and unsettling. "The trials will begin soon," she said, without turning around. "Commissioner, Vex has confirmed that our enemies have already discovered our location. We have perhaps a week before they arrive in force." Marcus joined her at the viewport, close enough that he could smell the subtle floral scent that seemed to surround her. "What exactly are these trials? And who are these enemies you keep mentioning?" Nira finally turned to face him, and Marcus was struck again by how beautiful she was. There was something otherworldly about her that went beyond her alien features, a grace and presence that made him feel clumsy and ordinary by comparison. "The trials are ancient tests that prove a guardian's worthiness to protect the royal bloodline. They test not just physical strength, but wisdom, courage, and the depth of one's commitment to those under their protection." Her voice softened as she continued. "As for our enemies, they are led by a warlord called Malachar, who seeks to claim our world's most precious resource." Cora paused in her practice to join the conversation. "Our planet sits at the intersection of 3 major hyperspace routes, making it incredibly valuable for trade and military purposes. But more than that, we are the guardians of the heart of Celeste, a power source that could fuel a fleet of warships for centuries." Xena looked up from her chocolate with sudden seriousness. "Malachar believes that by forcing one of us into marriage, he can claim legitimate rule over our world. Our father sent us away to prevent that, but the Protection Pact was meant to ensure we had a guardian strong enough to face Malachar's forces." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "And you think I'm strong enough to face a galactic warlord? I've never even been in a real fight, unless you count that time I argued with a customs official about import tariffs. Nira placed a gentle hand on his arm, and Marcus felt warmth spread through his body from the point of contact. The golden threads connecting them seemed to pulse with soft light, visible only to him, but somehow reassuring. Strength is not always about physical power, Marcus. The bond we share will amplify your natural abilities and give you access to skills you never knew you possessed. But more importantly, it will allow us to fight as one unit, each of us complementing the other's abilities. To demonstrate, Nira closed her eyes and whispered something in her native language. Marcus suddenly found himself able to understand the alien text on the data pad Vex had given him, symbols rearranging themselves into comprehensible words. Cora stepped closer, her initial skepticism giving way to curious interest. The bond is already stronger than I expected. Usually, it takes weeks for a guardian to develop that level of mental connection. She studied Marcus with new appreciation. Perhaps there is more to you than meets the eye. Xena bounced over to them with her characteristic enthusiasm. I want to test something, she announced, placing her hand over Marcus's heart. Try to remember the happiest moment of your life. Marcus thought of his grandmother's farm on Earth. The summer he had spent there as a child, learning to fix old machinery and watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. As the memory filled his mind, Xena's eyes began to glow with soft pink light, and suddenly the entire room was filled with the scent of earth flowers and the sound of wind through wheat fields. Incredible, Nira breathed. Xena's empathic abilities are resonating with your memories. The bond is allowing her to share not just your emotions, but your experiences. Marcus stared in wonder as ethereal images of his grandmother's farm flickered in the air around them, translucent but clearly visible. How is this possible? Cora's expression had shifted from skepticism to something approaching respect. Human emotions are apparently more powerful than we realized. If you can channel that same intensity in battle, you might actually be able to protect us. Commissioner Vex materialized in the center of the room with his usual dramatic flair. I hate to interrupt this touching moment of bonding, but we have received word that Malaker's advanced scouts have been detected in this sector. The trials must begin immediately. Marcus felt his stomach drop. What exactly do these trials involve? Vex consulted his ever-present tablet. 3 challenges, each designed to test a different aspect of your guardianship. The trial of strength, the trial of wisdom, and the trial of heart. You will face them consecutively, with no time for rest between each test. Nira stepped closer. To Marcus, her presence providing strength and comfort through their shared bond. We will be with you in spirit, even if we cannot physically aid you. Remember that your greatest weapon is not your body, but your determination to protect those you care about. As if on cue, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Through the viewport, they could see the distinctive energy signatures of unknown ships dropping out of hyperspace. Cora smiled grimly as she moved toward the weapons locker. It seems the trials are about to begin, whether we're ready or not. The attack came faster than anyone had anticipated. Captain Thorne's ships had bypassed the outer sensor grid using some form of cloaking technology, and now 3 enemy cruisers hung in space just outside the station's defensive perimeter. The station's security chief, a gruff human woman named Raven, had ordered all civilians to emergency shelters. While the defense platforms powered up their weapons, Marcus found himself in the station's command center, still trying to process the fact that he was somehow responsible for protecting 3 alien princesses from a galactic warlord. The golden threads connecting him to each sister had grown brighter and more distinct, and he could feel their emotions as clearly as his own. Nira's calm determination flowed through their bond, steadying his nerves even as his heart raced. Cora's battle-ready excitement was infectious, making him feel more alert and focused than he had ever been in his life. And Xena's unwavering faith in him provided a foundation of confidence that surprised him with its strength. Chief Raven approached, them with the grim expression of someone who had seen too many battles. The ships out there aren't responding to hails, and they're powering weapons. I've got 12 security officers and a handful of automated defenses. That's not going to be enough if they decide to board us. Commissioner Vex flickered into existence. Beside them, his multiple eyes blinking rapidly with obvious stress. Captain Thorne is demanding the immediate surrender of the princesses. He claims to be acting under the authority of Malachor himself. Through the viewports, they could see smaller ships launching from the enemy cruisers, boarding parties, preparing to take the station by force. Marcus felt a surge of protective anger that surprised him with its intensity, and all three princesses turned to look at him as they felt the emotion through their shared bond. "The trial of strength begins now," Nira said quietly. "You must prove that you can physically protect us when diplomacy fails." Cora stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. "The bond will enhance your natural abilities, but you must be willing to fight. Can you do that, Marcus?" Marcus thought about his quiet life as a cargo handler. His plans to save enough money to buy passage to a peaceful farming world somewhere far from conflict. Then he looked at the three women, who had somehow become the most important thing in his universe, and felt his resolve harden into something unbreakable. "Tell me what I need to do." Xena clapped her hands together with delight, her emotional support flowing through their connection like warm sunlight. "Just trust in the bond, and in yourself. You're stronger than you know." The first wave of boarders hit the station's docking ring with violent force, cutting through the outer doors. With plasma torches, Chief Raven deployed her security teams to defensive positions, but Marcus could see in her eyes that she knew they were outmatched. That's when something extraordinary happened. As Marcus focused on his desire to protect the princesses, the golden threads connecting them began to pulse with increasing intensity. He felt strength flowing into his muscles, reflexes sharpening beyond human norms, and knowledge of combat techniques that he had never learned filling his mind. Cora's warrior training merged with his consciousness, giving him instant access to centuries of martial knowledge. Nira's tactical genius provided strategic awareness of the battle unfolding around them. And Xena's empathic abilities allowed him to sense the emotional states and intentions of their enemies. When the first group of armored soldiers burst into the command center, Marcus moved with fluid grace that astonished even him. He disarmed the first attacker with a technique he had never practiced, used the soldier's own weapon to disable two more, and then engaged the squad leader in hand-to-hand combat with skills that seemed to flow directly from Cora's memories. The bond allowed all three princesses to experience the fight through his senses, and their combined will guided his movements with supernatural precision. He could feel Nira's analytical mind calculating angles and timing, Cora's battle instincts predicting enemy attacks, and Xena's empathic awareness warning him of threats from behind. "Chief," Raven stared in amazement as Marcus single-handedly neutralized an entire squad of enemy soldiers without taking a single hit. That was impossible. Those were trained military personnel with advanced armor and weapons. Commissioner Vex's eyes were blinking so rapidly they were almost a blur. "The protection bond is functioning at levels I have never seen recorded. The princesses and their guardian are achieving perfect synchronization, but the victory was temporary." More boarding parties were cutting their way into the station. Captain Thorne himself was leading the largest assault group toward their position. Through their shared awareness, Marcus could sense the enemy commander's cruel determination and his absolute confidence in his own abilities. Nira placed her hand on Marcus's shoulder, her touch sending waves of calm strength through their bond. "The real test is coming. Thorne is not just a soldier. He is enhanced with forbidden technology that makes him faster and stronger than any natural being." Marcus could feel sweat running down his face, but his breathing was steady, and his hands were rock solid. The bond had changed him in ways he was only beginning to understand, but he knew with absolute certainty that he would not let anything happen to the three women who had given his life meaning. "Then I'll just have to be faster and stronger then." "Impossible," he said, and was surprised to hear the quiet confidence in his own voice. Cora smiled fiercely. "Now you're beginning to understand what it means to be a guardian." As alarms continued to blare and the sound of cutting torches grew closer, Marcus prepared himself for the fight of his life, drawing strength from the three alien princesses who had somehow become his whole world. The battle with Captain Thorne had left Marcus exhausted but victorious. The enemy commander's enhanced abilities had pushed the protection bond to its limits. But in the end, the combined will of all four bonded individuals had proven stronger than any technology. Thorn's forces had retreated, but not before their commander had delivered a chilling message. Maliker knows where you are now. He will not send scouts next time, but his entire armada. Enjoy your brief victory, Guardian. It will be your last. Now, 3 days later, they had taken refuge in an abandoned monastery on a small moon in the neighboring system. The ancient structure had been built by a long-vanished civilization, its crystalline walls humming with residual energy that helped mask their presence from long-range sensors. Elder Sage Kyrian, a wise old being who served as keeper of the monastery, had welcomed them with the quiet dignity of someone who had seen empires rise and fall. His species was humanoid, but ethereal, with translucent skin that revealed the gentle glow of his internal life force. The protection bond grows stronger each day. Kyrian observed as he watched Marcus practice combat forms in the monastery's central courtyard. But strength alone will not be sufficient for what is coming. Marcus paused in his practice, sweat glistening on his skin in the light of the twin suns. The bond had indeed grown stronger, but it had also become more complex. What had started as a simple magical connection was evolving into something deeper and more intimate. He could feel Nira's presence constantly now, not just her emotions but her thoughts and memories. I say sometimes he would catch himself humming a melody she had loved as a child or feeling homesick for a world he had never seen. The connection was beautiful but also overwhelming. Cora approached from where she had been meditating near the monastery's weapons vault. Her own bond with Marcus had taken on a different character than Nira's. Where Nira shared thoughts and memories, Cora shared strength and determination. He could feel her warrior's spirit merging with his own, making him braver and more confident than he had ever been. "You're holding back," she said bluntly, her golden eyes studying his expression. "In practice, in battle, even in your connection to us. Why are you afraid to embrace what you're becoming?" Marcus set down the practice sword he had been using and wiped his face with a towel. "Because I don't understand what I'm becoming. 3 weeks ago, I was a cargo handler with no responsibilities beyond showing up for work and paying my bills. Now I'm connected to 3 alien princesses in ways I can't even begin to comprehend." Xena materialized beside them with her characteristic silent grace, her empathic abilities having grown stronger as well. She could now not only sense emotions, but project feelings of calm, joy, or courage directly into Marcus's mind. Her presence had become a constant source of comfort and strength. "You're afraid that caring about us too much will make you weak," she said softly, her color-shifting hair reflecting her mood in subtle shades of blue and green. "But it's the opposite, Marcus. The more you allow yourself to feel, the stronger the bond becomes." Nira emerged from the monastery's library, where she had been researching ancient texts about protection bonds. Her scholarly nature had led her to uncover troubling information about what they were facing. "Kyrian has confirmed my suspicions," she announced, her mental voice echoing in Marcus's mind even as she spoke aloud. "Maliker is not just seeking to conquer our world. He has discovered the location of the heart of Celeste, and he believes that by forcing a bond with one of us, he can claim its power for himself." Marcus felt a chill run through him. The heart of Celeste was more than just an energy source. It was a living, crystalline entity that responded to the emotions and intentions of those who approached it. In the wrong hands, it could power weapons capable of destroying entire star systems. Elder Kyrian joined them in the courtyard, his ancient eyes reflecting the wisdom of millennia. "There is something else you must know about protection bonds, young guardian. They are not merely magical contracts, but living connections that grow and evolve based on the emotions of those involved." He gestured toward the golden threads that connected Marcus to each princess, visible to all of them now as the bond had strengthened. What began as duty and circumstance is becoming something much deeper. But that evolution brings both power and danger. Cora stepped closer to Marcus, her hand resting on his arm in a gesture that sent warmth racing through their shared connection. "The danger is that if one of us dies, the shock could kill the others. But the power... ... She smiled, and Marcus felt her fierce joy echoing in his heart. The power is that together we are becoming something greater than the sum of our parts. Xena moved to his other side, her empathic projection filling him with a sense of belonging he had never experienced before. We know what we're asking. Of you, Marcus. To bond with us completely means risking everything, but it also means gaining everything. Nira approached until she stood directly in front of him, her silver blue eyes holding depths of emotion that took his breath away. Choice must be yours. We cannot force a deeper bond. It must be given freely and without reservation. Marcus looked at each of them in turn, feeling the weight of their collective gaze and the even greater weight of his feelings for them. Somewhere along the way, what had started as obligation had become something he couldn't name but couldn't deny. What happens if I say yes? He asked quietly. Kirian's voice carried the gravity of ancient wisdom. Then you will become something new, all of you, not human, not Celestian, but something unprecedented. The bond will no longer be about protection, but about unity. You will share not just strength and knowledge, but souls. Marcus closed his eyes and reached out through their connections, feeling the unique presence of each princess. Here's brilliant mind and deep compassion. Korra's unshakable courage and fierce loyalty. Xena's boundless empathy and joyful spirit. They had become the most important thing in his universe. And he realized that he was no longer afraid of that truth when he opened his eyes. Golden light was pouring from his skin, connecting him too. Each of them with bonds that pulsed like living things. Then let's become something new. The final confrontation came at dawn on the fourth day, as Malakur's armada dropped out of hyperspace like a plague of metal locusts. The warlord had brought 12 battlecruisers, 40 escort fighters, and his personal dreadnought, a massive vessel bristling with weapons that could reduce the small moon to debris in minutes. But Marcus and the princesses were no longer the same beings who had fled the trading station a week ago. The completed bond had transformed them into something unprecedented. Quadanity that shared thoughts, emotions, and abilities seamlessly. They moved with perfect coordination, spoke with unified purpose, and faced the coming battle with calm. Confidence. Elder Kirian stood with them on the monastery's highest balcony as the enemy ships took position in the pale morning sky. I have seen many wonders in my long life, but never a bond like yours. You have become something the galaxy has never known. King Valdrin's voice suddenly echoed through the monastery's communication system. Transmitted from his flagship hiding behind the moon's largest crater. My daughters, I have brought what forces I could spare, but Malakur's fleet outnumbers us 3-1.
Oh.
The final choice is yours. Nira's mental voice was steady as she responded through their shared consciousness. We understand, Father. The bond is complete now. Whatever happens, we face it together. Malakur's image appeared in the air before them, a holographic projection filled with cruel arrogance. The warlord was humanoid but clearly enhanced, his skin bearing metallic implants and his eyes glowing with artificial energy. He radiated malevolent power that made the air itself seem to recoil from his presence. Princess Nira, he said with mock courtesy, I offer you one final chance to surrender. Bond with me willingly, and I will spare your sisters and your pet human. Refuse, and I will take what I want from the ashes of your corpses. Marcus stepped forward, golden light radiating from his skin as the bond reached its full potential. When he spoke, his voice carried the harmonized authority of all 4 unified souls. Malakur, of the void reaches, I am Marcus Chen, guardian. Of the celestial dominion and protector of the royal bloodline, your claim is false, your methods are without honor, and your presence here violates every law of civilized space. Withdraw now, or face the consequences. Malakur's laughter was like the sound of breaking glass. Human cargo handler thinks. To challenge me? I have conquered 17 worlds and destroyed fleets that numbered in the thousands. What can one pathetic bond possibly do against my power? The answer came not in words but in action. Marcus and the 3 princesses joined hands, their individual consciousness merging completely into a single entity of incredible power. The golden bonds between them blazed like miniature suns as they drew upon abilities that none of them had. Possessed individually, Neera's tactical genius expanded to encompass probability calculations across multiple dimensions. Korra's warrior skills scaled up to strategic command of forces that existed in quantum superposition. Xena's empathic abilities reached across space to touch the minds of every sentient being in the system, filling allies with courage and enemies with doubt. And Marcus, the human who had started this journey as nothing more than a tired cargo handler, became the focal point through which all their power flowed. His uniquely human capacity for growth and adaptation allowed him to channel abilities that should have been impossible for any single being to contain. The first wave of Malaker's fighters screamed down toward the monastery, their plasma cannons charging for a devastating bombardment. But as they entered the upper atmosphere, they encountered something unprecedented. The unified entity that Marcus and the princesses had become reached out with pure will, and the attacking ships simply stopped, held motionless in the air by telekinetic force that defied conventional physics. Malaker's confident expression faltered for the first time. Impossible. No bond can generate that level of power. King Valdrin's fleet chose that moment to reveal itself, rising from concealment, behind the moon, with weapons blazing. But they were not the ones who turned the tide of battle. That honor belonged to the heart of Celeste itself, which responded to the pure emotional resonance of the completed bond. By manifesting as a column of crystalline energy that stretched from the monastery to the stars, the heart had been waiting. For millennia, for beings capable of using its power not for conquest but for protection, not for personal gain but for the greater good. In Marcus and the three princesses, it found exactly what it had been seeking. Malaker's dreadnought fired its main weapons at the energy column, only to watch in horror as the beams were absorbed and redirected back at his own fleet. Ship fell to their own reflected fire, till only the warlord's personal vessel remained in desperation. Locker teleported directly to the monastery's courtyard, his enhanced body crackling with stolen power as he prepared for personal combat. If I cannot have the heart through marriage, I will claim it through conquest. The final duel was brief, but spectacular. Malaker's enhanced abilities were formidable, but they were artificial constructs imposed upon his natural form. The power that flowed through Marcus and the princesses was organic, evolving, and fueled by something the warlord could never understand: genuine love and unity. When it was over, Malaker's body lay broken among the crystalline flowers of the monastery garden, his stolen power bleeding away into harmless light. The threat to the celestial dominion was ended, but more importantly, something new had been born. Commissioner Vex materialized one final time, his multiple eyes wide with amazement. I must update the galactic records. The protection bond has evolved into something unprecedented. You are no longer guardian and protected, but a unified entity unlike anything in recorded history. Marcus looked at his three wives, for that was what they had become in ways that transcended any legal contract. Through their shared consciousness, he felt their love, their joy, their excitement for the future they would build together. Neera's voice echoed in their unified mind. The galaxy has seen the birth of something new today. Korra's fierce joy blazed through their connection. Let the enemies of peace tremble. Now, Xena's boundless empathy embraced them all, and let love guide us to whatever comes next. As the twin suns set over the crystalline monastery, for souls that had become one stood together, ready to face whatever adventures the vast galaxy might hold. The protection bond had ended, but their story was just beginning.